They don't fall for you when you chase them. They fall for you when they can't figure you out. The moment you detach, truly, emotionally, strategically, something shifts. You stop trying to impress, you stop trying to please, and the power flips in your favor. Because here's the brutal truth. People crave what they can't control. The more available you are, the more disposable you become. But when you pull back, when you stop reacting, when you radiate calm indifference, they feel it deep in their psychology. It's not arrogance, it's power. The man who doesn't need approval, the man who doesn't chase, doesn't flinch, doesn't fold under pressure, becomes dangerously attractive. This isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming untouchable. Not because you lack emotion, but because you control it. And in a world drowning in weak men who can't let go, the man who detaches stands out like fire in the snow. Subscribe if you're ready to become dangerous by mastering emotional detachment. Because in this video, you'll learn how to stop chasing and start attracting. First, you have to master the hidden power of detachment. Detachment is not the absence of emotion, it's the control of emotion. When most people hear detach, they think of coldness, numbness, or withdrawal. But true detachment is power, not passivity. It means you remain centered no matter what's happening outside you. It means you don't seek validation, don't beg for attention, and don't react to pressure. At its core, detachment is emotional sovereignty. It's owning your state, not letting anyone else dictate it. When you master this, something radical happens. You become the prize. Why? Because people are drawn to what doesn't need them. Need is repulsive. Independence is magnetic. This is the gravity of detachment. You don't chase, they orbit. You don't explain, they obsess. You don't try, you simply are. Look around. Most men are slaves to their emotional impulses. They text too fast. They confess too soon. They panic at silence. They crumble at rejection. Their energy screams, "Please want me." That energy repels women, friends, business partners, everyone. But the man who's detached doesn't play that game. He's calm, grounded, unshakable. If you ghost him, he doesn't flinch. If you test him, he doesn't react. He knows his value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's attention. That's power. Real detachment isn't laziness. It's discipline. It's self-mastery. It's saying, I don't need you to choose me. I choose myself first. And ironically, that's when they start chasing. Because the less you need others, the more they want you. Like Machiavelli would say, neediness kills attraction. You must understand this. Neediness is psychological repellent. The more you try to cling, the more people feel the urge to escape. Because neediness sends one clear message: I don't believe I'm enough unless you validate me. And nothing kills attraction faster than insecurity disguised as affection. The second you start chasing, over-explaining, or seeking reassurance, you've handed over your power, and they feel it. Here's the brutal psychological truth. Humans are wired to seek strength. We're drawn to confidence, independence, and emotional control. When you act needy, even slightly, you're signaling weakness, and it triggers a primal reaction: disgust. You may not say it with words, but your tone, your timing, your energy says, please like me, please choose me, please don't leave me. And that invisible desperation ruins everything. This is where mirror neurons come in. The other person subconsciously mirrors your emotional state. If you feel anxious, they feel uneasy. If you radiate calm, they feel safe and intrigued. But when you're needy, your energy screams that something's off. It communicates fear, insecurity, scarcity. And women, especially feminine, emotionally attuned women, pick this up instantly. They start testing you, ignoring your messages, pulling away just to see how you'll react. If you chase, you fail. If you fold, you lose. Because deep down, they're not just evaluating how much you want them, they're testing how much control you have over yourself. Detachment kills neediness at the root. When you no longer depend on their response, you become untouchable. If they ghost you, you move in silence. If they test you, you smile and remain centered. No flinch, no fear, no chase. That's what makes you irresistible. Because real attraction isn't built through pursuit, it's built through presence. And only the detached man holds that presence long enough for others to feel the weight of it. Next, you need to become aware of the difference between strategic detachment and emotional coldness. Let's make something clear. Detachment is not the same as being cold. A cold man is numb, shut down, dead inside. A detached man is alive, but in control. Coldness is a defense mechanism. It's what weak men use to avoid being hurt. They suppress, they withdraw, they pretend they don't care, but underneath, they're scared. Scared of rejection, scared of vulnerability, scared of losing control. That's not strength, that's avoidance. Detachment, on the other hand, is strategy. It's calm, intentional, focused. It's looking someone in the eye and saying nothing, because you don't need to prove anything. Strategic detachment means you feel emotions, but you don't become a slave to them. You see the bait and you don't bite. You hear the insult and you don't flinch. You notice the test and you pass it by doing less, not more. This is the core of Machiavellian power. Stay composed while others reveal themselves. Let them overtalk. Let them show desperation. Let them break character. You stay still, silent. That's the real flex. It's easy to yell back, easy to explain yourself, easy to beg someone to stay or try to prove your worth. But that's emotional chaos, and chaos never attracts respect. Real dominance, the kind that turns heads and commands attention, comes from internal stillness, from the ability to walk into a room and not seek anything, because you already carry everything. The detached man isn't cold. He can love, he can care, he can feel. But he never needs to express it to be whole. He never needs to get it back to feel worthy. He chooses when to reveal emotion, if ever. And when he does, it carries weight, because it's rare. This is how you win without trying. You don't chase, you don't overplay. You become the one they're trying to figure out, while you stay 10 steps ahead. Detachment creates mystery and intrigue. People aren't drawn to what they understand. They're drawn to what they can't explain. And nothing creates that psychological pull more than detachment. When you're detached, you don't give them your full story. You don't overshare. You don't rush to please. You remain controlled, composed, and unavailable. That's where the mystery begins. Because mystery is power. People project fantasies onto what they can't access. They fill in the blanks with desire, curiosity, obsession. They start asking questions in their head. Why isn't he texting back? Why does he seem so calm? Does he even like me? What is he thinking? Those questions, that uncertainty, is how obsession starts. Understand this. Scarcity increases value. If you're always available, you're not rare. And if you're not rare, you're not desired. The modern world is oversaturated with men who overshare, overexplain, overpursue. They pour out their emotions like cheap wine and wonder why no one respects the taste. But the man who holds back, who speaks less, moves slower, reveals nothing unless it's earned, that man becomes unforgettable. Why? Because no one can figure him out. And in the game of power and attraction, the one who's unknown is always in control. Detachment keeps people on edge. It forces them to earn your attention, to interpret your silences, to wonder if they ever had you in the first place. And when they start thinking about you more than you're thinking about them, you've already won. This is the tension that builds true desire. It's not constant contact. It's not excessive compliments. It's restraint. It's silence. It's stillness. Give them just enough to feel your presence, but never enough to predict your next move. That's what keeps them coming back. Not because you're chasing them, but because you've become a puzzle they can't solve. Many ask, what happens after knowing this and still not able to master detachment? How to master detachment in 3 ruthless steps. Detachment isn't a personality trait. It's a skill. And like any weapon, it must be sharpened. Here are 3 ruthless steps to master emotional detachment and become untouchable. Step 1. Rewire your emotional triggers. Build self-validation. Every time you feel the urge to seek approval, pause. That's a trigger. That's the addiction to external validation whispering, "Please notice me." Kill it. Start validating yourself before the world gets a chance. Did you do something well? Acknowledge it silently. Did someone ignore you? Let it roll off. When your emotions rise, do not react, observe. Train yourself to delay response. Someone insults you? Smile. Someone ghosts you? Shrug. This makes you psychologically bulletproof. Why? Because the person who reacts last wins. Step 2. Use distance as a power play. Make people come to you. Never be afraid to pull away. Distance is not weakness, it's dominance in disguise. If someone starts taking your presence for granted, vanish. No threats, no explanations, just remove access. The moment they feel your absence, they remember your value. Not because you reminded them, but because the silence screamed louder than words. You don't win respect by staying visible. You win it by being missed. Let them feel your absence like gravity. Apply this in relationships, business, and power plays. Create space. Let them come forward. And when they do, meet them with calm detachment, not gratitude. Step 3. Kill expectations. Become outcome independent. Expectation is the breeding ground of suffering. You expect a reply, you expect loyalty, you expect love to be returned the way you give it. And when it's not, you break. Detachment means removing the chain of expectation. You act from alignment, not outcome. You speak your truth without needing it to land. You walk away without checking if they're watching. This is where true power lives, in being unaffected. Not cold, not careless, just free. Because the man who no longer fears loss can never be controlled. Master these 3 steps and you become dangerous. You stop moving with the crowd. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop bleeding emotion for people who haven't earned it. And slowly, you become the man they can't replace, not because you chased them, but because you walked away and never looked back. Once you master these 3 strategies, you become reborn. Your aura naturally radiates. This is what Machiavelli refers to as the magnetic aura of the detached man. There's a silence that speaks louder than words, a stillness that dominates a room. That's the aura of the detached man, and it's magnetic. You don't have to talk much. You don't have to show off. When you're detached, people feel it. It's in your eyes, your walk, your tone. You're not trying to impress, because you don't need to. And that absence of need, that calm, self-contained presence, is what makes others lean in. Women especially are drawn to this energy. Not the loudest guy in the room, but the one who says the least, yet feels like he knows something nobody else does. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't react. He listens more than he speaks. And when he does speak, every word carries weight. This man doesn't just attract attention. He commands it, because detachment breeds mystery. Mystery breeds tension, and tension is the engine of desire. You want to know why women chase men who seem emotionally unavailable? It's not toxicity, it's psychology. They're drawn to the man who feels like a challenge, a riddle, a force. The detached man is not a doormat. He's not begging for time or affection. He's centered in his own reality and invites others into it only if they qualify. This is the energy of kings, warriors, and leaders. Slightly removed, deeply focused, always composed. You don't need to become someone else. You need to strip away the parts of you that beg. Because once you stop chasing, once you start controlling your energy, you'll notice the shift. People stare longer. They speak softer. They try harder. Not because you ask them to, but because they feel your gravity. Finally, you must know that detachment isn't about isolation. Don't get it twisted. Detachment isn't isolation. It's not cutting the world off. It's not disappearing because you're scared. That's not power. That's retreat. True detachment is strategic. It's a mental weapon, not an emotional shield. Some men hear detach and think, I'll go cold, I'll ghost everyone, I'll act like I don't care. But that's not detachment. That's emotional cowardice. and people can sense the difference. Fake detachment is loud. Real detachment is silent. It doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't need applause or attention. It just is. So here's the warning. If you fake it, they'll smell it. If you pretend not to care, but your energy betrays your need, you'll come off bitter, not powerful. And bitterness repels. Detachment is not pretending you don't feel. It's proving that you control what you do with those feelings. It's having the strength to care. But the discipline not to depend. A detached man can love deeply. He can form real connections. He can commit, build, give, but never lose himself in the process. That's the key. Because the second your identity hinges on another person's actions, you've lost the game. You've handed over your self-worth, and now you're vulnerable to manipulation, rejection, and control. But when you stay rooted in your own value, when you give without attachment, walk away without fear, and remain centered no matter who stays or leaves, you become free. Not lonely, not empty, free. So here's how you end the game. Be ruthless with your energy. Give it to those who've earned it and no one else. Detach not to escape, but to elevate. Because once you master emotional detachment, you stop chasing approval and you start commanding respect. And that's when they crave you most, when you no longer need to be craved.